Hey everyone, welcome back to Make It Happen Mondays, where we talk about sales, business, entrepreneurship, personal growth, mental health, and everything in between with guests who I truly respect and I think make a positive impact on the world around us. And boy, do we have a treat for you today. Talk about people who I respect and I think make a positive impact on the world around us. For those of you who've been following along, I brought 18 practitioners / influencers / good friends of mine to New York City for a full day event called the Sales Play, where in the morning or in the afternoon we did LinkedIn, where we showed our best plays. Then we did a roundtable discussion. Then we did a happy hour. We live streamed it all. But then we all went to Glengarry Glen Ross. And afterwards, we all got together at my suite at the W and did a debrief. This was not live streamed, but it was recorded. And the conversation was so rich. It was about Glengarry Glen Ross and the feedback from that. And you'll find out really quickly why I think Jeff Hoffman, who was invited to this event and is a good friend of mine and is my mentor, I tell everybody that he is the greatest sales professional I've ever come across by far, and you're going to find out why. His knowledge and his insights from this play and how they relate to today are off the charts. And we got into a lot of other really thoughtful conversations around race, around women, because the play is a very male-dominant play. And I didn't think it was going to go in this direction, but boy, am I glad that it did, because it got us to all think a lot about sales and the perception and everything else. So buckle up. This is your Sales MBA. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Let's make it happen. I just want to go to like biggest takeaways or I mean, Jeff was already talking. What was your favorite part? Because you know this movie back and forth.
Of the play?
Yeah, like that we could learn from, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
I thought Bill Burr absolutely crushed it, and I think obviously probably typecast, obviously to put him in Moss's role.
Yeah.
But I mean, I didn't think he had the chops to deliver those machine gun lines,
Yeah.
especially in those scenes with Squiggy. Lenny.
Yeah.
Which I thought was terrific. And the thing that I thought the direct, if you're a fan of the movie, I think we all are, I thought the way they shot Roma, or the way they directed Roma, Culkin, was so different than the movie, right? Because the movie, Pacino is absolutely terrifying. He's a lion. He's just a savage destroyer of people. He's like a little guy, but he's just terrifying, right?
Yep.
And in I was thinking about the scene in the first act where in the play, Culkin is kind of half twisted, talking over to another booth.
Yeah.
And in the movie, Roma
right
is
next to him.
spread out,
you're right.
holding court like just a vulture. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, these are really cool choices. They really he took a twist on it. So I just thought it was fabulous.
And actually, I want to have the conversation out loud about what we were just talking about.
One?
Because about McCulkin and his character in today's world.
Yeah, I wonder.
So,
I think
curious what everybody's thoughts are.
I mean, and I'll say it straight because whatever. But I'm different generation. I think. I'm certain that in 2025, Ricky Roma's character is vilified and is a bad person.
Yeah.
But
McCulkin,
Culkin's character.
Yeah.
But from my generation and growing up, with all the badness of Roma and what he does, he's not a bad character. Right. When I started in sales and that kind of a person was someone you were like, oh. That guy's a killer. That guy can really do magic. Mm-hmm. And even now I'm like, oh man, that's just some strong closing skills.
Yep.
And so I'm sure that times have changed, and that's no longer someone we go, oh, that's how you sell. But I can't deny it. That's still part of how I sell. That is definitely still how I sell.
And why?
Because and I was saying this, I think, when we were talking. Mm-hmm. I've always believed that the idea that you sell to people to get them to where they want to go, I've never bought into that. The idea of where do you want to go? What do you want? What do you need? I've never really bought that, because my thinking is, if someone wants something, they're going to go get it. They don't need a salesman. They don't need a saleswoman. They can go get it. So when someone's like, I've got pain, I've got need, well, yeah, so everyone does. So you've done nothing about it. So you're coming to me in your current state.
Yeah.
So my thinking's always been just sell them the state they're in. So if the guy walks into the gym heavy and smells like nicotine, sell him pain, because that's what he's in. And if the guy comes in cut and fit, sell him that, because that's what he's coming in with. And it's just, and I've always like connected with that idea. And that's what the Roma character does. Yeah. He's going to sell you where you are. And where you are is tremendous. That's very powerful as a closer. Yeah. And when you try to sell people aspirations, I don't know, man, that's a big ego for a rep. Like, I'm going to sell you hope and fantasy and dreams. And like, man, I'm just a guy, man. I'm just a guy just with leads and some crappy software. I mean, like, I'm not going to break records on this. But you come in all you know, oh, things are tough. Well, I'm going to make you feel like it's really tough. And if you come in like, I'm going to kick ass, well, you're really going to kick ass with me. Like, I like that. That works for me. And that's, I don't think people sell like that anymore.
No, I don't think
but
so.
But it works.
Yeah.
I mean, it works.
Does it? So in it, go ahead.
What's so interesting about that character and that monologue, the very first monologue, was he was all about being present in the moment,
100%.
Just present. And what you were just saying is like, well, then I'm selling to where you are today, not to where you're going to be tomorrow, like where you are today, however you're showing up.
He catches how dismal things have gotten with his mark.
Yeah.
And then he realizes it's totally off the rails, and then he shifts gears. Instead of going, let's go eat, he's like, get in the chair.
Yeah.
And he goes,
let's be in here together.
And he says, there are things, you've got a bond and a pact with your wife, and that's a wonderful thing, and there are things that are yours.
Yeah.
You know, he's trying to find that place where he was.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's just glorious.
Because he was in a very solo place, sitting there in that booth all by himself. Like that's like, woof. That talk about reading the situation.
I get, no, don't do that. That's manipulative.
Yeah.
But it's not manipulative. This is my theory on manipulation. Like, it's not manipulation. If you're driving to a destination that everybody wants to go to, then you're being persuasive. If it's a destination that no one is agreeing to, that's manipulation. So if everyone wants to go somewhere, I think you've got free reins to be persuasive. I don't think that's manipulation. Like, if he wants something, you driving him there is okay. If he's not sure where he wants to go, then you should be hands off. Like,
and that's a little bit of the Roma character. He was like, I'm feeling where you're trying to get to, so I'm playing into that.
I get that. What I'm saying to John is, I think that's a dated, antiquated look.
Yeah.
I'm self-aware enough to realize that that's not how 2025 looks at the world. Okay, I get it. So I'm a dinosaur with that,
I just love how focused he was on the being present.
Yeah,
and
no,
like it's all about what's going on today.
I mean, even in this play, the guy ended up miserable.
Yeah.
So I don't think he wasn't persuading him to go the way he wanted.
No, you're selling him misery.
Yeah. So I don't think there was anything good about that.
No, it's not a question of good.
Well, wait, because, so hold on. So there was, at the table, what was sitting in front of the guy that he sold to? Do you remember?
In the first scene?
Yeah.
A book.
No, a Bible.
A Bible.
Oh, he was at a, so I think there was I think there was a message being told to us, like a little underlying message of like, this guy figured out that this dude could be preyed on.
You might be right.
No pun intended. because he, you got it. Doug. Because he saw a man that was in a broken state. He's looking for hope. He's in a bar in the Bible, right? And he preyed on him.
So what's the line though that Moss says to the other guy? When he's like, why are you doing this to me? And he goes, because you listen. See, like, if you can't play in the waters with the sharks and then wonder, why did I get bit? Like, I think there's a part of that in this narrative as well.
So that guy was letting the shark in the water.
Well, I mean, don't go over to his table.
Yeah.
You don't say I'm busy or I don't want to talk to you. Like
I mean, it's a choice.
It is a choice.
He had a choice in that moment.
100%, it's a choice. He didn't put a gun to his head.
Well, I think to your point, it's an incredible point because you're saying the principle of meeting a person where they are is powerful.
Yes, it is.
And I think that was like the underlying tone that was that he was immersive in the way he was meeting this person where he was.
And sinister. Like I'm not applauding
some dark shit.
I'm not applauding that. I'm not.
For sure.
It's
a good point.
But I think it's a powerful element in sales. It's a powerful element to be that present and to be like I'm gonna meet you where you are and I'm gonna really listen to you. I'm going to listen to you more than anyone's listening to you.
Sure, yeah.
And when people feel like they're being heard in that moment and they're being heard in where they are in their current state, and you just guide them in the state they're in, they will buy things from you in abundance.
But I don't think he guided at all. I
Fair.
think what he did was not just manipulation. He just
he lied. He lied.
Right.
I'm off on that.
I'll say that we've all seen those Roma guys. And they're the guys that are on the top of the board. Does that mean that they're the best? No, that means they close a lot, right? But they're still a cancer culturally.
Yeah. There was no one good. There's no one redeeming.
There's no one redeeming in the show.
No.
There is no one redeeming.
Yeah, but Jeff's point is so powerful.
Yeah, no one was beyond reproach.
Jeff says at the end of all that, Jeff says, I know that like it's, things have changed and it's like you do things different now. But he's also like incredibly right because if we take the Bible, there are things in the Bible we don't do anymore either, right? Like we don't stone, well, some countries do, I guess, but we don't stone people for stealing bread.
It depends on which version of the Bible we're talking
about. It depends on which version of Somalia. But I think his point is powerful because I took away in that moment, like you're speaking to my soul because I got emotional during that whole part. Because I could see all the stories they were telling in that moment, and I could see the empathy, the faked empathy. I could see the man who was receiving, feeling like, oh, finally someone wants to give me attention and help me, and
listen to me.
I saw all these incredible things, and I think to your point though, like that things are done different. That it doesn't mean that we can't still take principled ideas from the past that were good, that men used. And maybe women in some instances too, but more men historically, to their advantage instead of to the servitude of others.
I have a question though. So this whole show is all about the one-on-one relationship. I am Roma and I'm selling to you. I'm selling to you and your wife, you and your partner. How do we, all of this you're talking about, how does that change in this environment where there are like 10, 12, 14 people involved in a buying decision? Like in the world of like buying in the world of enterprise, there are multiple people involved. So it's not just me going to you.
Are there really?
Yeah. You don't have the unilateral decision power. Like no one person doesn't.
Not sure about that.
Oh, really?
Well,
yeah.
I've never,
Do tell.
I mean, I've been in enterprise sales my whole life, and I've never really bought into the idea that it's a collective. Somebody decides.
Like the CRO decides.
Not necessarily title-based, but somebody puts their thumb on the scale.
But they're influenced by a number of other people and factors that are around.
I think the word influence is overstated in our attempt to try to wrangle a sale that we don't fully always understand. I mean, smart salespeople generally are keen to figure out who's in charge here, and title aside, role aside, all that aside, somebody's steering this decision. And,
so you're saying
isn't
someone?
That true in most? Like, forget sales. Like, just think about your own like team dynamics.
Right.
Yeah.
Or your
Do
own
we really
family.
make decisions collectively, or does someone ultimately drive?
No,
Jen, is that you at Go Nimbly?
Depends on the subject. There's plenty of times when I default to somebody else and I'm like 100%, like I'll get pinged by someone about our HR software. I don't give a fuck what HR software we use. That's 100% on my people ops
It's very
director.
hard for companies to,
but it's still him.
to move forward.
If he told me we were switching, we would switch.
But was it a certain price? You'd be like, I need
No,
you to like, no,
truly,
you're just unilateral
if he
power.
I trust him. If he told me that we had to switch, we would switch.
So let's say like GE, I don't know, a big ginormous company LinkedIn, to what degree do they have some level of autonomy to make a decision to where I'm just one person versus there are a multitude of people?
I think it's in pockets. I think it just depends, like, what are you selling into what department and to whom? And to your point, it's like find the person who's like ultimately going to be like, that sounds like a good idea.
It doesn't operate in a vacuum.
Yeah.
You'll be dealing with multiple people, but there's someone's going to be the thumb on that scale.
Yeah.
There's no question.
There's a driver,
Someone says, let's do it.
There's always someone you have to close.
Find out. So let's do some more. A few more takeaways from the play.
I do a play comment, kind of a little bit about Macaulay Culkin's character. Is you mentioned he's so different from the guy in the movie, right? He's not Al Pacino, but he is himself. This is like, that's his character. That's his character in every show that he's ever done, every movie he's ever done. He's so himself. So I think there was like no way that he could not be that. I don't think that man plays anything other than himself.
And I agree with you. His whole thing is he'll have these like weird, neurotic, anxious takes.
Exactly.
And even like Roman from Succession is like manipulative and clever and conniving, but he's also that same, he's weird as fuck and is like quirky and strange and neurotic. And so like I agree with you. I was like, I didn't expect him to be like Al Pacino because it's
but he's also
different.
But you like it,
Yeah.
You know. He's on, like you were saying, like he's unethical, and you're saying like, okay, people are not going to like this anymore because sales has changed so much, and maybe don't look up. I don't know, man. I left being like that guy rules.
Yeah, I'm with you. I do like that side of it.
Yeah.
Did you buy though that his Roma in the play? Did you buy that he was like a ruthless salesperson?
I found him a little weak. I
He's
more desperate than you want.
They were all pathetic. They were all pathetic.
Yeah.
That's part of the
part of the thing.
That's part of the narrative.
And I do think especially
they're all broken.
But I also think especially the comparison to the movie. Like you have a little bit more of the like edge, and especially with Alec Baldwin's character and all the rest. And so when you don't have this, the sum total is like everyone is sad and kind of pathetic and a little fucked up, and like it's interesting because we were all talking about this going before. We were like, dude, the movie is depressing.
Oh yeah.
And then we were like, okay, they've hired all these like amazing comedians. Like, is this gonna be funny? Yeah. And it was. And I was like, but it's funny and also still really freaking depressing.
I got a question. Do you think we would even know about this movie without Alec Baldwin's scene? Would we know about this play?
Probably right.
No.
Without Alec Baldwin's,
Wouldn't be in the zeitgeist.
right?
Or even if Alec Baldwin wasn't in it at all, like because there's something so like
Iconic about that.
iconic.
Yeah.
We were shocked at the scene.
I really think it is.
Yeah.
I was shocked.
I had forgotten that. I
didn't know. I had never seen the play.
I learned about it because like I'm at like 35.
No, it was never in it in the first place. It was a play first.
Ever sales like meeting. I used to work at Coca-Cola, and that was my first sales job in field sales. And the guys were all like that. The only difference is there was no suits. We're in there, coolers, putting in Coke products and all that. We used to play this as an opening thing, like coffees were closed. This was ingrained in the full new cohort. Imagine, everyone. This is freshman university, college, whatever y'all. I'm Canadian, whatever you call it. There's 60 of us in this room, and the opening thing is the Alec Baldwin saying,
By the way, I told this to a bunch of people when I was like explaining to friends that I'm coming here, and I'd be like, have you seen the movie Glengarry Glen Ross? Because I'm talking to a lot of non-sales people, and they're like, I don't know. And then I'd be like, coffee is for closers, and they'd be like, oh yeah, like, and a lot of them had never seen the movie, but they knew that, and so it's like that.
It was a meme before there were memes.
Oh,
well, it wasn't in the play. It wasn't in the play, but as you walked out, you looked at all
the swag.
So like not even in the play.
Because again, that's how it's known.
I was waiting for that scene the whole time.
That's a good question. I don't know.
He wrote it for Alec Baldwin they wanted Alec Baldwin attached to the movie, so they asked Mamet if he would write in a character for him. And
so the original guy wrote it.
He wrote that character, and he wrote that.
Oh shit.
That monologue just for Alec Baldwin actually.
Wow.
So he figured out how to slot that in to an already incredible conversation
And
about the world of sales.
And when you
they
watch
slot that
the
fucking thing
play
in.
without it, it is way sadder because
so sad.
because you
so
have
sad.
the contrast of this very
You have
dynamic.
no villain. You have no villain. Also, you hate Alec Baldwin, and you just feel even that much more sad for these other sad sads.
It's a different experience
It's a
without it.
totally different experience.
You're so right. It is.
I was genuinely looking forward.
It changes the whole.
What Mammoth play isn't depressing?
It changed the whole
Every
dynamic.
one of them is
Well, that's the
depressing.
thing. Well, Mammoth is like,
Mammoth is
he's-
dark.
the
Like,
dude's
his
dark.
plays are.
And the combination of really, really rapid fire dialogue with sad, depressing like themes. There's almost nothing else out there that's quite like that.
Pretty great.
That changed the whole dynamic.
Do you think it's a comment on men?
What's that?
On men? Like, I mean, this was a depressing show. There was not really a redeeming character. The
Cop, maybe?
What'd you say? No, there really is.
You calling him an asshole?
Yes, there was nothing feminine. There's no feminine energy. There's not a female in
But
it.
there are, in other plays there are, just not this.
No, but this one, I mean, and it was just a disparaging comment on sales, but I'm wondering what Mammoth's perspective on men is.
Ooh. Interesting.
I mean, Speed the Plow's pretty dark about men.
They're all dark
They're all dark.
about men.
There wasn't a single like.
Well, Buffalo
transformation
Nickel.
story, nothing.
No, it's the big thing too, and this is I think this
There was
is
no
another,
happiness.
Like,
No, there's
symbol
no
of
one
the
you want to
fact
be with.
that it's older. Is there's no anti-hero. If someone wrote that story today and tried to like capture the same like darkness, I mean, Wolf of freaking Wall Street, like you have an anti-hero, you have someone who you're like, ooh, I feel guilty that I'm rooting for you, but I'm rooting for you, and like we don't have that, and I think Alec Baldwin provided like just a
Taste.
of that.
Taste.
And so because of that, the whole thing is just like,
So going back to being impressed by the character of like, oh, he is who he is. Alec Baldwin is the one I'm impressed with. He pulls no punches. He's
When he
exactly
whispers,
who
like,
the fuck he
all right,
is.
Mossier, no, or I'm going anyway.
Yeah,
And he
exactly.
kicks into
And,
gear.
oh,
Like, it
dude,
was
that
like,
is-
oh, he's so
He
good.
gives
Who are
zero.
you? Like, fuck you.
What's your name? Fuck you.
My name
That's
is
my
Fuck
name.
You.
So what do we think then? What if one of these characters were a female?
That would be a
What would it-
really
what would that look
interesting
like?
play. That would be a really
so
interesting
what
twist.
would change?
Roma's narrative changes.
You just said-
Roma's narrative doesn't work. Roma's entire narrative doesn't work if there's a woman. If there's a woman
Why?
character.
Why?
Because his big
Wait,
drum.
but is a woman that he's trying to sell to?
Roma's
No.
Roma's drum that he beats, mostly to John, the sales manager, is that, and he looks at the board and he's like, you know something he talks about to himself about how the loss of men, like he has this strange
he's
idea of
this.
the world of men, and it's a world that's fading.
It's madman.
So if there was a woman in the office, he would have a really hard time with his narrative.
by the way.
So it's
by
very
the way,
interesting.
though,
I don't know. I don't know what would
think
happen.
that is part of the reason why they've brought it back now. Because you think about the conversation that is going on in America about men and the role of men and masculinity, and it's like so of the moment, this concept of like men's fading glory and the bitterness and the like sadness and all of that. Like why are they doing it now? Because it feels really of the freaking moment.
You're absolutely right. And to answer your question, where would it change as a woman? It was clear that he could talk to John. He could manipulate John.
Yeah.
Right? He could massage and
Not the wife.
But the wife, she would have broken him.
Yeah.
She would have broken him. He wanted to stay as far away from her as possible.
He did close her, though.
because he could not.
But he did close her.
Yeah, but he couldn't run shop over her
But I'd
like
say
he did
there's
with
a
He had a
lot
contract. He
of
signed
women
the
salespeople
Yeah.
who are the same way, who
It's
they
also
can
not a
work really
close
well
thing.
with a man, but not a man.
Yeah.
Not a woman.
So what would it look like? I know this is a weird parallel. It would feel like It's Always Sunny. You would need a woman like that character. Yeah, you would need a D. You would need someone just as terrible as the others, and a woman can totally play that. It would change the dynamic,
Sure.
but you have to imagine it like that kind of female character.
But what if she was the, what if she was the character with the narrative, with the man's world, and you shifted it?
Yeah,
Like, what if she was what's his name?
Roma.
Yeah.
totally.
Oh, she could.
You could write that. You could write that.
That would be interesting.
But it was still that whole drumbeat of the like, in a room of men, you're a child. Like, there's so many lines that you'd have to just discard. I don't know, because Roma's whole thing is about that testosterone.
But you've met women that also say that stuff. I have. There are women.
Oh yeah. Female sales.
Not that have taken the male identity that way.
I disagree.
Oh, yeah.
I disagree. There are women.
I'm thinking.
And I don't necessarily think this is good, but I think that a lot of women have been put in the position of wanting to be one of the boys and needing to match that energy,
But they've gotta
and
be
needing
tougher.
to put other women down and talk about how we all I want to be just as masculine. And so I think that character fits, and I think the character can continue like that narrative, but she has to put other women down, and she has
that's
to.
why the whole idea of her, if it was a woman, also not being able to sell to the wife. I'm like 100%.
For sure, she also
I know
can't.
a lot of those
Yeah,
women sales
totally.
people. Like,
You can cast this entire play with them.
yeah.
Well, I'm wondering, did you guys even notice that it was all a male cast? If it was all women, you'd be like, oh, this is strange.
Did you really reflect on the fact that it's all
I didn't notice at all.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I didn't notice at all.
Yeah.
I didn't
Thank
notice
you,
until the
John.
end.
I've got sisters, so
There's
yeah.
no women. I didn't know, literally until the end. I was like, oh shit.
You didn't realize it was all men.
No.
Hold on.
Because
How
I
long, ladies? How long did it take you to be like, oh yeah, I forgot. There's no women in this thing. How long?
I never forgot.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like, and that is a thing that like.
That's this.
What does that say?
This is what my dad had written on his desk after he passed away. It says, when you're accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression.
Yes.
Privilege isn't like I was born with a silver spoon. Privilege is when I drive down the street and I get pulled over, I don't have to worry about getting shot.
We have a different experience.
Privilege is I don't have to worry about
Completely different
what I'm
experience.
wearing today so I don't get sexually harassed. Privilege is when I watched Glengarry Glen Ross, the fact that it was all male had zero impact on my view of that. It didn't even register to me that there weren't women. Not that it wouldn't register me if I was watching an all-female cast, you know what I mean? But if you ask that question, I had.
With all white characters.
Yep.
I noticed.
Exactly. Like it's like more like
definitely
you know what I mean. I walk into a stadium in Boston and it's all white, and I don't even fucking blink, right? That's, yeah.
There's a reason for that.
You guys have taste.
That's not our hangout spot.
You guys don't want to be there. I got it.
Yeah.
I knew there was a reason why I liked that. The dead reincarnated. Come on.
It would be a very interesting remake as an all-female cast. I think it would be a really interesting.
I think it would be just as awesome,
Yeah.
equally as
Oh my God, yeah.
Patel situation, is that from the movie too?
So, yo, that's straight up from the movie. Yeah.
Because I've sold to Patels and I won, by the way.
I know. I was thinking of being like, I mean, they own a bunch of hotels. They got money to spend on this shit.
We have money to spend. So
That's amazing.
I was just like, wait, they said Patel like twice.
Yeah.
And then they said Shiva, Vishnu.
Yeah.
Vishnu.
Oh, yeah.
I was like,
Yeah,
that's a guy.
Oh, dude. Watch the movie.
But
man.
and also, don't you love the intentionality of the fact that it's like, we're going to choose Indian, where it's like, that's a little safer for us to be really, really
And I'm looking around.
We're not
going
going to
to
give
I'm legit.
black man.
So hold on.
I also
So Kasey,
I was like this the whole time, being like, Patel.
Oh, I knew it was
I'm
coming.
the only brown guy in this damn movie that when I was playing, but I was like, this is ridiculous.
And
I need some solidarity over here.
So Kasey, I think you make a good point about the timing of all of this right now. So I'm going to flip it a bit.
Yeah.
just like in what's going on out today, where black men are being essentially neutered and pushed aside, did anybody notice that the weakest character of the entire place was his boss?
Yes.
Right? Who absolutely had two things. He had no soul, for one, and secondly, he had absolutely no desire to try and stop what was going on. And because he felt as though he was powerless to be able to make any change.
Hold still.
So let's bring it back to America today.
Hold still. I need to ask this question. Do you think that was intentional?
100%.
Okay, so there wasn't there's a token component. So let me ask the token question. Was the token component, or do you think this was intentional to put him in that role to represent
leadership, management?
No. I think it goes way deeper.
Okay, please explain. Help me understand.
Just tokenism.
Okay. That's what I'm saying. Or were they intentional with that choice?
Oh, very much so.
Yep.
Because what it did was it went beyond him just being a token.
Mm-hmm.
It put him in a position where he was in a position of power, but he had absolutely no power at all.
So this is confusing to me, because there is a nuance to that is very interesting about how they put that there to represent that. But to the average person that doesn't have that type of insight, they just put a black man in a position of weakness. So what's your thoughts on that?
Hold on, I've been that guy.
Yeah, I know. We talked about it.
You know what I'm talking about.
We talked about it. The chief fucking diversity officer.
I'm not going to say the company, but we'll call him Big Congo.
Yeah.
where I was in a position by title, by responsibility, but I literally had no power from the first day that I walked into the company. The way that they brought me in was underhanded. It was devious. They had a guy that was in my position. He didn't even know I'd been hired as his boss, and he was the guy that everybody loved. So when I walked in, I was the guy that was supposed to chop heads. I was supposed to come in and be the savior, if you will. I can do that, right? Okay. I didn't say savior.
You can be savior for sure.
And so I noticed it right away. From the very first SLT meeting that we had, everyone talked around me.
Of course.
And I went, okay, at first I thought maybe I'm the new guy. And then 2-3 times in, I was like, I have been set up to fail from day one. And I think the same thing of that character.
So
what he represents is someone that is a black man that's in a powerful position by title, who literally has zero power.
And here's the thing: if someone black was involved in that decision. I'm so curious if there's someone in the writing staff or somebody involved.
It had to be.
Right.
Absolutely, it had to be.
But this is the problem with that, though.
Because we live it.
No, but this is the problem with that, is that this group right here is intelligent to have this conversation, understand that representation in context. I don't think the average person does. So unfortunately, 90% of the people that went to that show, and this is my question for you guys, like how you feel about this, is genuinely, like, this is a very thoughtful conversation about that, and the nuance of placing that there to represent what it did was holy shit, if that's what they fucking did. But to the average lack of intellect, lack of curiosity person, they saw a black man in a subservient role, even who had power like you were. So is that a good thing or a bad thing, that it is striking this conversation, or the masses looked at it as the fucking most useless position in that entire fucking play was a black man?
I think it's a great conversation, because what it does is sparked. I stood up during the break and I looked around intentionally to see what the audience looked like. And like with you, I'm looking around to see how many brown people are in here and who look like me. And something hit me like a ton of bricks. It was like, this is their ICP. And so those are the people that they know will
how many women were in there?
See this.
Hold still. Can I just ask real quick on this point? How many women, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted you.
That's okay.
But how many women, did you look around to see how many women were there?
Yeah, I did.
But I think a lot of
But couples. They were couples.
This was date night where the guys.
It was couples.
Okay.
It wasn't like women came to see it. They came with their partner.
Yeah.
Right. And with us, I looked around and I was like, we're not here because
I obviously don't
we're not their
have the
ICP
perspective
for
of a
this.
black person, like thinking about this, but I do think like that's art, dude.
Yeah.
You make great fucking art,
Yeah.
and you know that 90% of the people that consume what you create will not understand that, and that doesn't mean you dumb it down for them or you lessen it. Like
that's fair.
And I also think it's my instinct is. I don't think they look at that and they say, oh, he's the weakest guy. They look at it, oh, he's the guy with the title, and he's being like, no, I won't do that for you. So I think there's a lot of people that would look at it and be like, But I'm just saying, like, if we're talking
From
about
life experience, I got to disagree with you.
Yeah, I would.
That was intentional.
Oh,
Very intentional.
no. I'm saying the to John's point, the dumb people that don't get the thing, I think might also not get the how powerless he was, and that's all.
So again, it goes back to parallel of America right now.
Yeah.
Right, and that is their audience is the lowest common denominator in their mind.
Yeah.
And think about where we are in America right now.
But that was such an intellectual conversation. I don't know. Hold on a second. Like on this crowd, do you think it was the intellect was
The
on?
lowest common denominator is not going to Glengarry Glen Ross.
I don't think so. I think this was an intellectual. I think this was an intellectual play.
I want to say something without saying something.
Please go ahead.
It's not this group, that group. I'll finger quote, right?
Yeah.
But what it is it's a group that they're safe to have that look, that feel. And if they take it to that next step, then like we're doing right now, we'll go forward. What I love is that it's sparking this conversation at all. And my hope is that this is not the only room that people walked out of and they're
That's
having
my
this
fear.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
You started the conversation by saying, what if there was a woman there? Like that kind of like
Twisted the whole
show.
And I do think
in such a warm way.
And then
I do think they might.
What if
they
the black
might
guy
not
was
get
super
all
masculine?
of-
It would have changed everything.
What if they what?
What if the black guy's
the black
Roma?
guy
What if the black
would've
guy?
been-
What if the black guy's Moss? Like the whole the whole thing gets.
Yeah, if he's anyone else, if he's Moss,
Oh,
I'll tell you what happened.
That would be a very different message.
He's too aggressive.
Yeah.
How about if that was a
pushy.
black
Yeah.
woman?
Even in line.
If it was a black woman, then you know what?
black.
She would have been ostracized right away.
100%.
They would have been running to
She would have been the
HR,
angry black
and she would have been
woman.
fired
And they were
before lunch.
No,
fucking
that
Africa,
choice,
like, that
that
make
choice is a
sense.
stirring choice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's how I see everything.
I mean, it was intentionally done. There's no
No,
question
well, there's
about
no
it.
question it's intentional,
But-
but the more I'm thinking about it, the more I realize how stirring that choice was.
Yeah, and like I said, what I'm hoping is that it's stirring these conversations.
Well, there's
Yeah, that's Kevin Spacey's character.
Doing this after leaving Glengarry Glen.
No, I'm not talking about right now, tonight, but I'm saying in conversation.
It really does change the dynamic of that whole character having to be a black man.
No, they're all probably drunk right now.
we watch it in the room they're doing over there. Like, oh, hey. What, the casting?
No, that nobody's talking about it.
I think.
No,
I
not
think
to this level.
I mean, I'm sure it would, but something
Yeah.
very poignant about it being a black man in a position of leadership,
Powerless.
emasculating.
Completely
And
emasculating.
again, especially given what is happening,
It's parallel.
Like, it,
Well, you-
it feels
It's definitely
very,
parallel.
very intense.
The timing of it coming back.
is 30, 40 years old.
Yeah, so
So
why
to your point,
now?
why bring it back
now?
now? I think
And
you
I
just
do
hit on
know,
something.
like I really do think I have developed such a crazy amount of respect for Bob Odenkirk. Like, dude he is so brilliant. He's so nerdy. And by the way, this was his whole thing. Like, he went to Mammoth like decades ago and was like, someday. So like, he was the one who's really behind all of this. Yeah. And like, genuinely, if you do a little bit of research on him, he is so brilliant and nerdy and smart. And like, if you've watched any of like Better Call Saul and shit, like it's all the like little layers of things. And I would very much bet that like everything we're saying of like all of the nuance, 100% intentional. And I bet I think we're all really fucking smart in this room. I bet there's some elements to it that we have not figured out yet. And like, I'm excited for like in a week, I'm gonna get like a mass text from someone in this group being like, oh my God, I figured it out. Like,
I mean, it's literally like the underbelly of
Like-
separate. There's so many little messages there.
So here's one thing that I don't know that anyone is tapped in on, and that is, so after the break-in and everything is messy, who's the only guy that was cleaning up?
But that's
They
also,
had to-
that's in the original.
But what I'm saying is,
yeah.
in parallel to where we are right now, no one else picked up a piece of paper off the ground, but he had to go clean the whole place up before he could disappear off into his little office.
And then he got totally disparaged for just being the office manager. Like he got completely.
Yeah.
Can you
That's all
imagine?
true to the. That's all true to the.
That's all
original.
true to the movie.
It's all true to the original.
Yeah.
But it does take a
But
completely
you think about
different.
in context
No,
now.
you're making an awesome point. It really changes the perspective with the casting. It
Yeah.
really does.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
Like, here's something I
Absolutely.
based on that.
I hadn't thought of any of that.
The first act, though, like I just kept getting all these small things. By the second act, what I realized was that we were watching these white males complain about being able to make
First
money
world
at a
problems.
job.
Yeah.
It's like the first thing that came to mind, which I know that it was really it was spot on to the movie for sure, but it took a whole different. It just the whole thing spent in my head after that first act. The way they laid every conversation was laid out in its own very unique parallel, where they all wanted something.
Well, you
that
get-
they thought they deserved.
You get that. You get the first,
Not earned,
the first,
but deserved.
Yeah, the
Wait,
first. Oh, sorry.
that they're entitled.
They're entitled
That's
to.
it.
Absolutely.
The first scene
Absolutely.
is his entitlement speech.
Yeah.
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 They keep referencing.
I was
things
8
from
months out
years
of
and
12
years and years.
in 1979. Yeah, I
Yeah.
bought up these leads, like the entitlement.
I think it was 69. I mean,
was
actually,
69.
it was like so
Yeah.
way back. Like,
So it goes way back,
Yeah.
but he's still living on that glory.
yeah. And I do that.
And by the way,
But
the fact that
goes
he
back-
still has
that's-
a job
That's
says
a,
something.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. There's one. No, because I think it's interesting, and I don't know why.
I'm
If
still
we
trying to
think
figure
that
it
it's
out.
very intentional, Morgan brought up the cop was Hispanic.
I'm still trying to figure that one out.
Was he?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell from my
The,
seat.
the
Like, I
cop
don't-
was
I
Hispanic.
don't
So
know
I'm
what
still
the-
trying to clock like what was the reason behind that? You don't make random.
No.
Yeah, right? So then I was like-
Not in that size of cast.
So then I was like,
Not with 6 people in the cast.
why a Hispanic cop? Still have not been able to understand that.
Was the movie?
No. That's why I was like,
No, the movie was all white.
it was all white.
I had like a full-on Miami Vice vibe going with that.
I was thinking
and I,
that
Well, that- that's
thought,
kinda
I
what-
mentioned like
80s,
Dexter.
right? So,
I was like,
yeah.
this feels like a Dexter.
Dexter.
That's what I felt they were going for.
Yeah.
Going deep.
Yes. Oh my God. The like cute.
I don't know why.
The black one I clocked. I was like, that makes
He
sense.
doesn't have as much of a role, that's for sure. Like it is very much like come in the room.
It's kind of muted. It's just
It's
kind of
very muted.
nebulous. It's like
The cop. Yeah.
yeah.
But
yeah,
why
like,
would the
it's
Hispanic
just-
guy
yeah.
have to be the only true asshole by everybody?
That's what I'm saying. That's just like, what was the reason behind that?
Hated by everyone, sure.
Universally hated.
Yeah.
No, he represents
Every single time.
He represents authority, which they all agree they don't like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that was kind of that. That's how I read that
Yeah.
role. Like it was like we all agree we hate the cops. Like we all agree we hate because they're all
And we
they're
do.
all cheaters.
And we do.
They're all cheaters. They're all liars. They're all every one of them. Everyone's on the take. Everyone will cheat. Everyone will rob. Everyone will steal.
Yeah.
So for them, we all hate that fucking
Right.
guy.
Yeah.
Like so that was easy. That was easy. That was easy.
I think what we do is we watch it from our own lived experience. And so each of us have our own unique, vibe on it and like what we take from it, what we see from it. And that's what's so, wonderful about hearing everybody's perspectives here because I find it fascinating, right? Like the whole thing and understanding and again, being able to hear other people's perspectives. Because when he was saying too about being set up as a leader, that happens to so many women.
Yeah.
They have the title and they don't have the power. And so when he said that and I was like, oh, and just, just the whole thing. So I just really appreciate everybody's perspective. Yeah.
I think that's a great way to end it. So that was fucking fantastic.
Thank you, John Barrows.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks everybody for
TV.
coming out, man. This is what happens when good people together. This is what happens when you bring good people together. You learn, you grow, you have cool conversations like this. You don't solve world problems, but you spread positivity, and you make somebody smile. So thanks, everybody. Cheers. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. With your support and our incredible guests, we're one of the top sales podcasts out there right now, and I can't thank you enough. Now, to keep the momentum going, it would mean the world to me if you could go and leave a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform and share some of your favorite episodes with your network. Also, I am super excited to be launching my new newsletter, where I'll be sharing everything I know and everything I'm learning along the way while I'm out there selling every day just like you. Go to jbarrows.com/newsletter to sign up today. Let's all level up and make this happen together.